Hello everyone, Chris here with Platinum Reviews, and today I have a Platinum review for you guys for South Park, The Fractured Butthole. Now before we begin, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, find us on Facebook for more awesome content and giveaways, and we'll keep the videos coming. Now as far as the Platinum is not too difficult to get. You pretty much can get it in one playthrough. No trophies are missable. I would give the Platinum Trophy, probably about a 4 out of 10. It's not hard at all, with the exception of one collectible trophy, fighting Morgan Freeman, which is pretty difficult. It took me a couple times, and beating the game with a black character on Mastermind difficulty. Now, with the exception of those, everything else is pretty easy. If you just want to do Mastermind difficulty with the black character right off the bat, no trophies are missable, so it could just be done in one playthrough. However, I am pretty glad that I didn't realize that, and I did do a second playthrough. After my first playthrough, I was very satisfied with my gameplay and my experience with the game. I would have gave the game about a 9.7 out of 10. I didn't run into really any issues other than a few gripes here and there and some other things which I'll kind of go over with you. So the story for The Fractured Butthole takes place after the events of Stick of Truth, which was the first game in the series. The story takes place immediately after those events, and you're pretty much superheroes trying to start off your Netflix franchise. Without going too much into detail, that's pretty much the gist of it. Other stuff happens, all that fun stuff, Civil War pretty much, but it's definitely a good story. I did run into some issues with the story though. I felt like a lot of jokes kind of fell flat, and some of the stuff just didn't really go through well. I think Stick of Truth was a lot funnier game and had a lot better like South Park ha 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 moments. This one did not, and I did like the story. I'm not saying it's bad at all. It was a great story, but it wasn't as good as the Stick of Truth. The story also, if you're a fan of the show and you watch the show, for those of you that don't know, 2 weeks ago there was an episode, I believe, it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, where it's a prequel to the show, or to the game. So if you've played the game and you want a kind of cool little backstory of how everything happened and everything, go and watch the show. The stuff that was in the episode are not in the game. So it's kind of a cool thing to just kind of watch if you have 30 minutes. It doesn't take long. But that being said, definitely I like the story, not as good as the Stick of Truth. The gameplay. Now, when the gameplay was first shown off at E3, I want to say it was like 3 or 4 years ago. It's been kind of delayed a few times, but when it was first shown, I wasn't too excited about it. I saw the gameplay and I was like, why would you change the gameplay from the first one? The combat was awesome. There's no reason to change it. And I didn't like how it looked gameplay-wise. I was still going to play it and still going to buy it because it is South Park and I love South Park, but I just wasn't impressed. After playing the game, though, I am loving the gameplay. The combat is so smooth, and to improve on a combat system that was already great is just baffling, and they did do that. They improved on it in so many different ways. Also with the gameplay, you're playing superheroes now, so you have multiple different classes you can choose. Starting off with just 3, as the story progresses, you unlock more classes, and you can switch between the classes at any time. So if you're playing as an assassin and you're not really digging it, you can switch over to a brutalist or a plant master, and you can just kind of play with it until you find a really good style that you like. Other aspects of the gameplay, I did run into a few glitches, and those were done in my second playthrough, which didn't help the score. It didn't hurt it a lot because, I mean, the game was already pretty great, but it didn't help the score. There was an issue with 2 boss fights that I ran into where you would beat the boss and then it would just kind of stop. And the characters were still moving and things were still going on in the background, so the game didn't freeze. You could still pause the game, but it was not progressing. Like something wasn't telling it, hey, the boss is done, move on. So it was 2 times that I actually had to force quit out of the game completely and go back in. And on Mastermind difficulty, redoing bosses is not a really exciting thing. Definitely sucks. So that was a huge gripe. Another thing is, in the game you're collecting followers, and to collect followers, you walk up to somebody, you press the R1 button on PS4, and RB probably on Xbox. So you press R1, and it takes a picture with them, and they become a follower. Now, my issues with this is sometimes you'll pick up an item right next to that character, and you'll go to press the R1 button, and the icon's not there. So you actually have to walk away from the character, walk back, and then it'll pop up. Same thing if you walk up to them, press the R1 button before the icon comes up, you have to walk away and walk back to them. It's not a huge gripe, but it is a little annoyance, especially after 2 playthroughs. The summons in the game, I won't tell you any of the summons, that way it doesn't ruin the surprise of which ones you get. There was one in particular, though, that, being a fan of the series, I definitely loved. It was probably my favorite summon. There was another one that I didn't like. I felt like it's a brand new character for the game. It wasn't a character from the show, and I feel like they fell flat on that because there's so many of these built-up characters in the show that, you know, you've grown to love, and to add a new character that you don't care about at all, I was kind of disappointed in that. But for the most part, didn't really matter. I still enjoyed the game. Now, the game is planned for DLC content. There was a season pass announced. I want to say it's $30 for the season pass, and it comes with some new story-driven stuff and some other stuff here and there. I don't remember everything off the top of my head, but definitely go check it out if you want to know what's in store for the future of South Park, The Fractured Butthole. Now, that being said, we talked about the gameplay, we talked about the story, but the graphics. Now, South Park, I love what they do with the games because they look just like the show. So graphically, it's the same thing as watching an episode of South Park. It's just a really long episode. And with that being said, I did my second playthrough. I skipped everything. I didn't do any side quests. So if you skip everything and just do gameplay alone, it takes about 3 hours. If you watch all the story and everything and do some side quests and go exploring, it took me about 15 hours on my first playthrough, which wasn't too bad. I definitely suggest the game. Now, with me having to give it a review after my issues with the second playthrough and me actually getting to sit down and pay attention to the mechanics of the game and how other things work other than the story, my score from 9.7 did drop. It went to a 9.4 out of 10. Now, some of the stuff can be fixed with patches, and I understand that, but at this point in the game's life, I would give it a 9.4. I definitely look forward to the next DLC, though, and finding out what's next in store for the series. I highly enjoy the game, and I definitely suggest picking it up, especially if you're a fan of South Park. If you're not a fan of South Park and you don't find the humor funny at all, don't pick up the game because you're not going to like it. It's just South Park humor. So, you know, if you don't appreciate that type of humor, the game's not for you. And if you are a fan of South Park, the game's definitely for you. Go pick it up. I highly suggest it. If you have any questions at all about any location of anything or anything at all about the game, shoot me a comment down below and I'll do my best to answer anything. If you want a trophy guide on how to do something, I don't mind putting the game back in and recording something really fast to let you see how to do that. But for the most part, that should be about it for me. This has been Chris with Platinum Reviews, and be sure to stick to Platinum Reviews for all your gaming news and reviews. You guys have a great rest of your day, and thanks for watching.